Hello, hello! It is that time again to discuss all of the books that I read and reviewed in the month of January. January was a bit up and down in terms of reading. I read some really great books and some kind of books in the mix there as well. And while I did also attempt to participate in 2 readathons this month, I didn't do a huge amount of reading. So that was kind of unfortunate, but it's the way it is. Okay, now moving on to the books I read. I think I'm going to go through these in terms of rating from lowest to highest. First of all, we have Soundless by Richelle Mead. This one I rated 2 out of 5 stars, and I did a full spoiler-free review of this one as well. And if you're interested in my thoughts about this book, go and check that one out. But basically, I was just kind of disappointed with this one. It had a lot of potential. The concept is really unique. It's about a deaf community living on top of a mountain, and things start to go wrong where their food supply is running low and people start to go blind as well, and the main character regains her hearing. So it's interesting, that aspect, but it just wasn't executed very well, unfortunately. I also read The Sea of Monsters by Riordan. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay. I just wasn't overly invested in the story. I liked the characters in this book, but I just wasn't quite as gripped as I was in the first book. And I think my rating is also affected by the fact that I would have enjoyed this so much more if I was younger. This is definitely geared towards a younger audience, and I'm not sure why, but I just found with this book in particular, it was just hard for me to ignore that. Reading The Lightning Thief, I was able to just kind of overlook that fact, but just those aspects that really would have appealed to younger readers really stood out to me in this one and irritated me a little bit. I couldn't help it. And now moving on to some of the wonderful books that I read this month. The first of which is Alana, the First Adventure by Tamora. This is a reread for me, one of my favorite childhood series, and it was very interesting reading this one again because I reread this book back in 2012, I believe, and I thought I would have remembered more about it than I did. Despite having read it only a few years ago, I had once again completely forgotten about the ending. I was taken aback and so surprised as to what happened. At one point I was kind of wondering to myself if it was just this edition of the book that had a completely different ending, but that was ridiculous. It is this exact same story. I just totally forgotten about it. So that was an interesting experience because it felt like I was reading it for the first time again. This is a fantasy novel in which Alana masquerades as her brother in order to train as a knight. She's obviously not able to, being a woman, but she poses as Alan in order to fulfill her dream of becoming a knight. So this is the first part of her adventure, obviously, and oh my gosh, this series just gets better and better. I'm so excited to reread these. You have no idea. And the last book that I completed this month was Winter by Marissa Meyer. I finally finished it. It took me a while to read. The Lunar Chronicles is definitely one of my favorite series, and this was a fantastic conclusion to the series. A series of sci-fi fairy tale retellings. It's my jam. This book in particular was a roller coaster ride for my emotions. The characters are just put through so much. I don't know, there was so many times where I was wondering if anyone was gonna come out alive. It was just intense, wonderful. I loved it. Beautiful, read the series, it's so good. So those were all the books that I managed to finish during the month. I did start 2 more, but didn't finish. The first one is Dreamhunter by Elizabeth Knox. I started this one I think on day 2 or 3 of the Winter Biennial Bibliothon, but I put it down and moved on to another book just because I was struggling with it. I've got some issues with the writing style, and I'm about 100 pages in at the moment, and I'm undecided if I'm going to finish this one. And I also picked up The One by Kiera Cass, part of the Selection series. It's alright at the moment. I'm about 100 pages in as well, but not super engrossed. It's not really gripping me, so I'm trudging along through this one as well. Now moving on to the books that I reviewed this month. I put up 2 reviews in January, the first of which was Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, my first time dipping into the Cosmere. This was an absolutely incredible fantasy story. I was so intrigued by the magical system, loved it so much. 5 out of 5 stars. If you're interested in more of my thoughts, go check out the review. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, I did a review of Soundless by Richelle Mead as well. 2 out of 5 stars, wasn't fabulous. If you're curious as to why I didn't like it, go and check that out. So that is all that I have for this wrap-up video. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I'm curious to hear about your thoughts on any of the books that I mentioned, and I'll see you guys very shortly with my February TBR video. Until then, bye!